Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? It's your boy Cal Griffin here. We back with another edition of Legends Talk. I need everybody stop what you're doing right now. Go like, subscribe on the channel. The All Things Hoops channel. Definitely share it with your friends, your family. Tonight we got a very, very special guest. Anyway, we're gonna get into who he is and everything, but I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and stay tuned. We got a lot of fire coming your way, man. Legends Talk. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This man needs no introduction. You already know. It's your boy, the Bone Collector, Larry Williams. What's going on, champ? How you, man?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me, sir. I appreciate the introduction as well. I'm just so honored to be able to explain the story. Sometimes people ask me about that name, and I don't know any other way to explain it but to tell it on the podcast.
Yeah. We're gonna get into all of that, man, and a little bit more. But first, let me shout out our sponsor, Soul Pack. Soul Pack is a bag company. They got some fire bags with the basketballer in mind. Definitely check out their website. Everybody, check out their website, check out their IG. On the website is thesoulpack.com. Follow their IG at Soulpack. And before we get into it, we're gonna get into a little bit of a Soul Pack commercial. And right after that, we're gonna be right back with you with the Bone Collector, y'all. Stay tuned.
Wavy Boy Productions.
That was Soul Pack, everybody. Again, check them out online at their website, thesoulpack.com, and on social media at Soul Pack. But with no further ado, man, Larry Williams, Mr. Bone Collector himself, man, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time out, man. I know I've been hunting you down for this interview, man, but I think it's well, it's much needed in the basketball world. You've been doing your thing for quite some time now, and if the world doesn't know you, if the people on my page don't know you, they're gonna know you today. What I'm saying? Bone Collector, man, appreciate you.
I respect that. I appreciate you for having me.
Of course, man. Of course. Ball Up tour. You made yourself famous and known by the EBC at Rucker Park tournament. You've played in the N1 mixtape tour. You've traveled the world. Just pretty much, just by basketball's grace. You know what I'm saying? And we definitely salute you. We want to send you, your flowers right now. And big you up as much as possible, man, because you deserve it, man.
Man, thank you. I appreciate that.
No doubt, man.
The questions you have, since you know Streetball so well too.
Yeah, man. I've been around the Streetball game, man, for quite some time now, and I've been following the game, man. Ever since I remember back in the days when used to even come down to the Kingdom, which was one of my favorite venues to play at.
That was nice. Kingdom was a little rougher than most places because you didn't have. It was like the crowd could surround the court because there was no seating really.
Right.
Yeah, those days.
But yeah, we're gonna get into a little bit of that a little bit later. But just to start it off, man, Where's the beginning of the Larry Williams story? Not even the Bone Collector story. The Larry Williams story, man. Like, when did you first start playing ball? When did you first pick up that rock? And when did you know that this was what you wanted to do?
It started when I was about 5 years old. My dad took me out to a park, and he taught me just the basics of the game first: pick and roll, give and go. Those are the first two plays I learned. From 5 all the way up to about 15, because I had to play him so much, I learned how to play defense first. And that's what motivated me to kind of want to strive to play it more, because, I should go to gyms and, even though I had nice handles and they were pretty good, I wasn't the best player on the court. So that challenge every day I went to the court used to like motivate me. I had to try to be the best player in the gym. So from there, from 5 all the way on until I was, right out of high school, although I got into some trouble out of high school, I left that lifestyle alone and went to New York. And when I went to New York, my life changed overnight, kind of.
So I mean, initially you went to was it Chafee Junior College, and then
yeah,
and that was out there in Cali, correct?
Yeah, so I didn't get a chance to play in high school, even though I was good because I was an art major. I wanted to go to school for art.
Right.
So I ventured into basketball, I would say about 18, 19 years old. I felt like I could be good enough to play on a team and contribute. You can play on a team and not contribute, but I wanted to be a factor. So I tried out for a team called Chafee College, as you speak of. And a good friend of mine, Robin Kennedy and Reggie Cotton at the time, took me up to their old college and had me try out in a pair of Chuck Taylors against their best guard. And because I was so fast and I had so many different moves at the time, the coach was like, man, we need him for sure. So they kind of like rolled with the punches with that. I signed up. I did great. I was probably the second leading scorer in my division. Assist leader in my division. So I had some D1 offers, Cincinnati and Pepperdine and all these places. But because I got in a little trouble, when I came home, I felt as if I needed to elevate my skill level and decrease my mental approach. So basically, instead of me thinking like I needed to be involved in my old way of living, I figured I was very good at sports. Why not dig into that and see how far that would take me? So I left LA and went to New York. And when I went to New York, I probably played against the hardest players I ever played against. Rest in peace, Ali Mo. Rest in peace, Escalade. Rest in peace, Big Strickland. A whole lot of game. Dave Seals, Kenny Satterfield, Marcus Hatton, Omar Cook. Those are just the names. Kareem Reed, Stephon Marbury, Allen Iverson. Rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, Steve Francis, Headache, and so on and so forth. The Gilbert Arenas, Nate Robinson, Jamal Crawford. So on these, Sean Marion and all these names I'm naming, these were guys that I had to play every night. It groomed me to play on a different level. And I think I wasn't, at the time, I don't think I appreciated it enough, because you see these guys on TV, and then at the time, it seemed like the NBA players wanted to come out there to kind of prove themselves.
Right.
They would come out playing serious. So we had to kind of take it that way. And I never forget, Jamal Tinsley was like one of my most competitive rivals. At the time, I didn't make it personal, but I guess because of his name and who he was and how aggressive his skill set was, it made us perfectly matched to kind of put the city and keep it on fire, so to speak. It was a great matchup. I learned a lot guarding him, obviously.
Right.
But that whole motivation from there, from me going from Chafee to Rucker, gave me the drive to want to pursue a pro career at it. And that's when I took it to the next level, and I started trying out for some pro teams. And I ended up playing on some pro teams overseas and winning some championships overseas. This is, I've been playing for so long, it sounds like it's back in the day, but it is actually early 2000s, 2005. Then ABA, and so on and so forth until Ball Up starts 2010. Streetball tour is still going.
Right.
And up to the current day, working with NBA players as a trainer, and then competing in the FIBA 3-on-3 is my next step.
Right, right. So tell me, I mean, you mentioned, you made the adjustment from coming from California. You came out to New York City. You were attending Globe, the Globe Institute of Technology, at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And was that like a kind of your introduction to New York City basketball for the very first time? Because I mean, I remember it. The kind of there was no social media at that time, so it was like just a word of mouth thing, man. There's this guy, Bone Collector. You know what I'm saying? He's coming. He's coming to town type of situation.
Right.
Now, was that your first introduction into like the whole New York City scene?
No, I would say my first introduction would be my first game against. It was like a all-star sort of showcase, and they had Ali Mo playing, and a couple of young guys from the Avenue, Good Seals, Whole Lot of Game. Adrian Walton was playing. That was my real introduction because I never seen guards. I'm just being flat out honest. Those guards were athletic, they could shoot, and they had a different type of handle I never seen before. Like, so a lot of running crossovers and like the Sham God. I never seen that before. Right. I played in Sham God in New York in these small gyms. So the big stage for me, getting introduced to New York, never happened on the big stage first. It would be behind closed doors. Like, there was a scenario where I played against this guy named Speedy Williams and Sham God, who we all know for the move that he does, that most of the kids pick up nowadays, including myself. And then a guy named Jerry McCullough, who was eventually went overseas and played for years over in I think in Europe or Italy or somewhere like that. This was a 3 dribble drill for the first time against those 3 players. I don't know if you guys did research on those players I named, but they were so good at the time that I didn't figure I could compete in 3 dribbles. But I did it anyway, and I ended up doing good, doing well, and I learned something. Like, no matter what I thought I was ready for, I wasn't ready for it. Sham God was dribbling up under his knee somehow in front of me. And it was an interesting time for basketball. The challenges were a lot different. So my introduction to New York Streetball, and I had the privilege to play against a guy named I'll Be Right Back when I was
shout out to Irv.
Irv, when I first got there.
I think today's his birthday too, if I'm not mistaken.
Happy birthday, I'll Be Right Back.
Word.
I also got to see generations of basketball. So my first team I played on was with Future, who was the first person I seen on tape actually shake somebody and make them fall, and he did a little dance or something. Yeah. I never saw that before until I seen that, and then he was, my teammate, and then I got to travel and do these things from Dyckman to Rucker. That was like the it's only like a 10-minute drive, so we used to go from Rucker games to Dyckman games. And then I would be like, well, if they let me play on the next team in Rucker, I'll play. And we'll come back down to Rucker and play just because we love the game and the challenges. And every night you playing somebody different. Like, you might be playing Sebastian Telfair one night and then turn around and have to play. I don't know if people are familiar with these names, but it was a guard they used to call Black Magic.
Carl Krauser.
There was there was like Sickle. I don't think people know about him as much as they should. His name was Shiku Kava, I believe. He had a move that I still to this day try to steal. He won't show me, but it's kind of like the Sham God move, but it was different. Those scenarios is what gave me my intro to the game, and then obviously the people I met when I first got there, giving me the opportunity to play on the team that represented Polo Grounds. That was my introduction.
Okay. Now, you mentioned we mentioned a bunch of great players from Ali Mo down to Sham God, and a bunch of professionals like even Baron Davis, Katino Mobley was some some of the guys like you mentioned, Sean Marion. Now, getting on in terms of that game that you mentioned about the Jamal Tinsley, that was one of the more famous games for you, in my opinion, it was like a coming out party for you, because these guys were pro guys, and you kind of hung right in there and even exceeded that level, in my opinion. Now, was there any kind of when you get on the court, is there any nervousness, or any apprehension on your behalf, knowing that you're facing somebody that's a pro, that's at this particular level? What kind of things are going through your mind when you're stepping on this court for the very first time, competing at the highest level?
Well, the first thing from being honest, the way Rucker is established and set up, the way you have to walk in, you almost feel like you're in a gladiator's arena, because it's like a narrow corridor. You walk through, everybody's yelling and doing all this stuff around you. The other team is already warming up. So when you come in, there's already animosity. So I think as an athlete, you automatically kind of go into some sort of mode, some sort of zone. Like, okay, I know I have to play today. If you're a basketball player, there's a certain motivation you have. But there's also that nervousness at the same time, the butterfly kind of feelings in your stomach, where you're like, people will boo you if you mess up. They will get you out of the park. I remember at one point, if your T-shirt wasn't white enough, they would hold out the game and take your shirt off and send you to the bodega to get a fresh one, and then come back and they laugh tone wop.
Yeah.
No music until you get your swag up, is what they used to call it.
Right. Now, shout out to Booby Smooth. He's the icy white Wednesdays, man. That was classic.
That was so. Because of that, I don't think that I'm going to give you a false sense of the truth, because I was there for battling purposes. But once you're in there, you're in a cage, kind of. You have to kind of play to your highest level. You ain't got no choice, kind of, because no matter what, it's like every night is something different. Like some nights, you imagine playing against, I don't know if people know who this is. His name is Prime Objective, and Kobe Bryant were on the same team. When I saw him,
Lonnie Harrell, yeah.
That was a lot going on out there. Like, that was a dangerous backcourt. And if you were on the other side of that, no matter what your name is, you got to play defense. That's one thing I learned about New York over, not over any other city, but every night someone's coming at you to kind of prove a point. So I was ready for it. And I was always, my dad taught me at a young age to be prepared for and be ready for the unexpected. So I was ready for it no matter what, but I was still a little anxious.
Right, of course, man. That's to be expected. You know what I'm saying? Like you just mentioned, it's like a gladiator's arena, and everybody chopping each other head off pretty much. And you know what I'm saying? You have to either kill or be killed. And that's the way, that's the way it was at that time. And you know what I'm saying, only the strong survive in that kind of arena. So I mean, right now in this modern digital age, we have all of the social media platforms. We have Instagram, Twitter, and just everything else, right? And at that time, we didn't have any of those. I know you're doing your numbers right now with respect to social media, but can you tell me about what you think it would have been like in terms of your popularity? Had there been like an Instagram or something like that, man, during the time that you were out there, doing your thing?
It's tough to say. I know it would have been. If we'd have had Instagram then, it would have been a lot of ankle breakers and support. Things that would have been recorded, that would have been probably to a quicker rise, so to speak, to make things viral. I think it's collectively everybody, though. It's not me in particular. When I say social media played a big part in everybody's life, I'll just put it in a better perspective from a true story. A good friend of mine, professor, when he was in 10th grade, he saw the EBC DVD on DVD with me on it. And years later, we're best friends now, and he tells me the story. So in a way, he makes me understand that you already had the power to influence then. You build a platform around that, I believe you can become successful, is my point. And I think that I think it was a simpler time for people then. I think it was unnecessary. Some of the things that social media provides are unnecessary, in my opinion. But there's also a necessary portion of it that needs to be understood. And what I try to do, especially with having a platform like that, is to let kids understand that because I have the word follower or whatever it says underneath there,
Right.
you have to be in control of your own understanding of what I'm doing with my basketball career to make a better decision with your life. My voice should not lead you and guide you anywhere if I'm not prepared for that.
Right.
Sometimes, and that's what I think the difference is. Back then, it was harder to be an influencer. I mean, we had two ways and so on and so forth, but you had to be on a big scale, on a huge stage. Like Rucker Park was a huge stage, but it was only one real influencer, in my opinion. That was Ray Froston. You know, he was in the NBA and he was playing street ball. He gave us motivation. We wanted to be like him. And I'm not gonna say me. I wanted to do what he was doing. So influence, yeah, but social media shouldn't drive people to want to be an influencer. If you're good at something, you're going to do it anyway. So people should want to follow that motivation if it's positive. And social media doesn't always portray that, and that's why I think that the kids need to find that balance, because you're just a few types away from things that are not healthy for your brain. Then you should probably not be doing that. And that's why I think it was better for us then that we could just two-way, hey, Bone Collector will be uptown. You have to actually go uptown and watch it. You couldn't video it and get it receptive that quick. So it made everybody a lot more, receptive and a lot more friendly with each other.
No, that's a fact. I totally agree with that. Now now this next question, I want to kind of get into the mind of a killer almost, right? Like it's like one of those television shows almost, right? But you know what I'm saying, that game that you referenced, the Jamal Tinsley game, right? Like you guys were going at it. Like you had this one move, this little, and I've seen you use it before on multiple occasions, but that hezzy, right, where you just completely left him. It looked like he was pretty much in cement. You know what I'm saying? Like he was standing there, and you were gone.
Right.
Now you guys it's a gladiator sport, and you guys are going back and forth and whatnot. But was there any time that you were like just saying like, yo, you can't, you're not better than me, or you know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to get the idea what was in your head in terms of the competitiveness between you two. Well, I know it wasn't personal. It maybe turned personal on the court, but what was in your mind in terms of that?
Well, for me, my dad was teaching me things at a young age, and I had objectives, and regardless of who's in front of me or what's going on, I hear the trash talk, but I have to complete these objectives, and I already did 2 of them. I got 1 more to complete. And the first objective was to literally go to New York and put fear in everyone's defensive position. And what I mean by that is do certain things to keep people, which is what you call stuck in cement. And I had to accomplish that in a way where it was easy enough for me to compete. So that means, I want the kids to understand this so they won't think it's arrogance. I had to do a move that only required 1 or 2 dribbles so I can play the most defense possible to earn respect in New York. I didn't think just having offense would have did it enough for me. This is my mindset. I didn't think just because I was scoring, if he had 50 and I got 50, then whatever. But if I'm keeping his points, if he's averaging 30 and I keep him under that, or 15 or 20, then I can earn some respect from him. And it ain't about the city at this point, because as an objective, and my objective was to make him uncomfortable with my movements and how I was almost like a karate match. So I felt like, and I feel like that to this day, that objective was complete. I don't think nobody wants to stand in front of me by themselves without help on a one-on-one situation. So once that was complete, it wasn't personal between me and him. I wasn't really seeing him there. I was more focused on Jay-Z and the coaches and how they felt about what was going on, so I can understand their mindset. How they're hiring assassins. These players are NBA players. Why are you bringing these players to play us? So what were they thinking? I was more thinking in their mindsets, and it helped me because I had to learn from the hard way. I lost like literally every season playing me and Homicide and all the other guys that we played with, playing our hearts out to try to win a championship, and we got one the last year. But 5 years of losing doesn't feel good. Trying your hardest, going to the playoffs, losing by a couple points. Those were heartbreaking years for us. So I needed that stuff, and that's why my mentality was never personal, because I need objectives to be complete before I can get personal. And then, we can get it. That's why to this day I think that a cool thing to do would be to go and find all the old rivalries and just play one-on-one, and just play not for media purposes, just to do it. Me versus Kinsley, me versus Ray Austin, me versus Sham. No cameras, just to work on our game. And that way, we learn, and we take that and we move with that. We move forward with that, instead of the rivalries are there, right? But you take away the influence and the way to judge it and to compare it and all that, then it's just joy. That's what Rucker Park was for me at the time, because I never had to see Ray Austin and say, I have a problem with you. It was always joy. His fans were screaming for him. The people that liked me were screaming for me. We always shook hands. We left. We might have fought during the games, but then we left like this. Nowadays, because people can comment and say things about you and do these things, I think that we get a false sense of defending ourselves for no reason. Not anybody in particular, but I think that if you eliminate that, it'll be a lot smoother transition. So just a few different mindsets that, kind of motivated me to kind of keep that more deliberate approach to my game. So to make a long story a little shorter, you want to keep yourself at minimal pace when you're trying to complete an objective. And I'm going to continue to do it. I got one more to complete, and I won't say what it is until it's done.
Well, yeah, man, we definitely we're sure that you're gonna meet that next objective, man, just because of the the mentality that you have, and the way that you approach these challenges. But is it true five MVP awards in a row? Is that at EBC Rucker Park?
Yeah, I shared them with a couple people, but yeah.
Wow, that's remarkable, man. Just considering the amount of talented players that came through that park. All of the NBA players, all of the the D1 college players that passed through that league at that given time. That's remarkable. But now you were mentioned as or labeled the most dangerous streetball player in the world. By Slam magazine. How much does things like this aid to your gratification, or just kind of like that acknowledgement by media outlets and things of that nature? What does that do for you? Does that help you? Is that just kind of like the icing on a cake, or what?
When you hear things like that, it lets you kind of understand that you are working in a capacity where it makes sense for your genre. So to make that simpler, you never think that ankle breaking would be a genre or something that's fast. When I started when I was 5, I didn't think that being called the Bone Collector would be my name. I didn't think any of that. So I just wanted to be good at it, right? And then it lets me know when people say those things, especially magazines like Slam, it lets you know that whatever you're manifesting with your craft is becoming dangerous, where they actually use those mononyms and those words to describe it. It's a good feeling because it means you have something to aim for. So whatever that was dangerous, you make it more dangerous if you can, and you keep building from there. And I think with that kind of motivation, it keeps you driving on a different level. And I can see it when I watch the NBA. There's certain guys that I can see when they train and the way they work out and the way the shot selection, they have that drive. And I'm not comparing myself to them, but it feels good to see it and kind of look at it like it looks familiar. It doesn't seem unfamiliar. Like if you see somebody working on their jump shot and crossover, and they're doing it to the point where they won't miss that shot or they won't miss that crossover. And you can do the same thing, whether it's in the NBA or it's wherever you're playing. It's still familiar. It's a language that you can understand. So
right.
I like that fact that I can draw from that, because anything in life that we do requires familiarity. And the basketball language is something that I've been speaking for a long time.
Now, of course, and piggybacking off of that, in terms of the NBA, now again, like you've demolished, to say it, and nicely, you've demolished a few NBA players out there, embarrassed them, if you will. Did you ever think that maybe you had a shot at this thing? Maybe you were able to make the league, and seeing as though you were hanging with them and getting the best of them in the park. Did you ever think that you could have a shot at the league?
I never thought about the NBA in the form of I wanted to make it. I wanted to be. To be honest, I thought that I was like a little kid at heart, so I used to draw things like me out of the NBA's here, and then my universe is on another side of the world. Like that's a whole nother world. I don't play like that. That's how I thought. And it was a little off when kids hear that. They say, "What do you mean?" And I say, "Well, would they play in Mars? They're not breathing the same. They can't be dribbling the same. It would be, different atmospheres." I never put the NBA in my head like that, because I felt like you couldn't give me $1 million, a year on my body, as good as I am and with my offense and all these things. You couldn't put me in those scenarios because I wouldn't be regular. So I figured that why even aim for that? That wouldn't be feasible for the way I see it. So I used to draw myself scoring and jumping out like Space Jam. I used to draw that actual thing where I jump, but the NBA players would be the so-called Martians, and I would jump away from them and draw this on pieces of paper. And by the time I got older, I drew myself playing against Iverson, and then I ended up playing Iverson. And Iverson was always my favorite player.
You got to play him?
Yeah.
The one-on-one that you because I know that you have made it public that you were challenging a few NBA players in terms of Allen Iverson and God bless the dead, Kobe. You had said well, it's my understanding that you had said a friendly wager of 50,000. Let's play one-on-one. I'm not sure if that ever transpired or not, but was that the one-on-one that you were referring to with Iverson?
I'm not able to get into any details about that. Let's just say back in those days, I was very controversial. So if it came out, I would call him out, not to be arrogant just because I wanted to play him. I was being a kid hard, to be honest. My heroes were coming to the park. Of course, I'm going to say, Kobe, you don't want to play against me just so I can have it in my history book. And Kobe ended up, rest in peace, ended up becoming my friend because of all the things that I've ended up, experiencing with him on the court. It wasn't like that at that time. It wasn't that situation, because it didn't pan out that way. There was never any animosity from the situations.
And in terms of like, I know that a lot of people ask, how did you get that nickname Bone Collector? And I'd probably be doing a disservice if I didn't ask you the same, just for the sake of continuity with the podcast. Can you tell us how you got the name?
Yeah, so my first maybe 3-4 days in New York, I would go to these little parks, and people would fall and twist ankles and stuff like that. And it was about the third game in Rucker, or fourth. I had been making people fall, and like some guy reached down and like broke his finger, and another dude had a hamstring pull, and they was like, he's injuring people. Ambulance stuff was going on, right? He's injuring people. And then so one of the games, we went into overtime. I threw the ball through someone's legs and snatched it back. He fell into the gate at Rucker. And you heard the gate was an iron gate to protect the fans. And so you hear that loud bang, and the whole gate fall on him. And I lay the ball up, and they jump over him in the gate and run all over the court. right? So my good friend David Seals calls me in the middle of the night in New York and says, "Bro, got the perfect name for you, the Bone Collector." I can't remember if it was probably early 2000, maybe 2001. And I went to the park. I told EJ and Booby Smooth and Hannibal, the most electrifying.
Mm-hmm.
You should call him. Dave actually told him you should call him the Bone Collector, and they just started, Duke Tango and those guys started saying over the mic, and that was it.
And that was where history was made right there.
Yeah, it was over from there.
Now fast forward in a bit, right? You've had the opportunity, by means of this basketball game, to travel the world. You've played in a number of different, celebrity basketball games, and when I'm saying celebrity, I mean like real celebrity, right? Like now, can you tell me a little bit about the Floyd Mayweather situation? You guys, I mean, obviously it's on YouTube. Anybody could look it up or what have you. Was he a good sport about that? I mean, you broke him up a little bit. You made him fall, and as probably thousands of other guys that you've made fall. But this is the champ. This is Floyd Mayweather, Money Mayweather. How do you take it? And were you guys able to kind of establish like a friendly rapport after that?
Yeah, that scenario was one of the most I guess controversial situations for me as far as social media wise.
Right.
When people were making memes and all this stuff. The reason why I was controversial is because Floyd is my friend. I've known him before the game, and we're still cool now. It never got too personal between me and him and I. We're just two competitors. To be honest, he's the first player I've ever seen step towards me like he wanted to attack me. He wasn't running from my dribble moves.
Right.
I kind of gave him I kind of understood what kind of situation I was in when it was happening. But overall, I think he understands, and I would love to play him again. I think he understands that whatever we do and whatever we're great at, we can definitely clash and see what happens, especially with basketball. I'm not mentioning that for his boxing is concerned. I'm saying he loves basketball. I love basketball. His techniques and my techniques on the court are very interesting, I should say the least.
Right.
So I believe even though that happened, I think that it kind of motivated him to want to be better at the game, because I don't think he wouldn't expect no one to ever make him fall. I don't think so.
I mean, he wasn't the first and most definitely not the last.
Mm-hmm.
Now when you're and this is back to like the inside of a mind of a killer situation, right? Mm-hmm. When you're dribbling, right, and like, do you instantly know, like, whoever it is guarding up, how soon do you know, all right, I got him? I'm gonna make him fall. Or do you go out and try to make him fall, or is it just like I just want to break him up a little bit? How do you approach that?
Well, because I am a competitor, I don't want to give out all my tactics, but I will tell I will tell you the first line of defense for me is the eyes. Once I look at the player in his eyes, I know what's going on. So it's hard to kind of say it. It's descriptive depending on who you are. And then from there, I make adjustments. What I mean by the eyes, obviously, I'll give you a little insight on that, is every human being wakes up in the morning and opens their eyes. When their eyes are open, that's the way they assess things. If you look into a book for long enough, if I look at you looking into the book, your eyes have a deep train of thought. There's a trance almost. You're staring. When you're playing basketball, you can find out what a person's deeply into when they're getting ready to guard you, especially by just to look in their eyes sometimes. And sometimes it'll help you. Sometimes it'll be a challenge, but either way, you'll be prepared. And that's just, one of the little steps I use when I go at my opponent.
And if you were to put a number on the number of people, that you've made hit the deck, probably in the thousands, or what do you think?
Let's see. I was little.
I mean, you know.
That I was already making people fall when I was like in little rec leagues, like when I'm from 7 all the way to even now. I guess I've been making people fall.
You made somebody fall yesterday, probably.
I did actually. Just a little drill we was doing.
That's dope, man. I remember when you came to Kingdom, and you played a game. They actually had I don't know if you remember Shannon Bobbitt. Shannon actually played in the WNBA. She played Tennessee with Candace Parker. She was nice. She was like the kind of the poster child of of the hood at that time. And she played with the guys.
Fall.
Huh? What would you say?
She made somebody fall that game.
Right.
Remember that.
And so you remember that game, right? And they actually matched you. You were matched up with her, and I seen this move that you did that I've never seen anybody else do, and you probably even forgot, or you probably remember, but it was like you were backing her down, right? But then you left the ball, and then you were pretending like you were dribbling, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness, this guy is crazy with it.
Yeah, I was just trying everything at that time, and Streetball and Rucker and Dykeman and Kingdom and Gun Hill and West Fourth and Basketball City and even over in Staten Island and all these places was all going on at once where you could learn every move from everybody, try everything. So I remember that. That was awesome. That's a good throwback memory because shout out to Shannon. She had so many moves at the time. That's what I'm saying about New York. You playing against a girl and she's doing everything like
for real.
And she's not just doing the moves. There's a difference between people who stand and dribble. Every move is calculated to where if you're not over there, she'll just go lay it up on you.
Right, and she's trying to make you fall. Quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, shout out to Shannon Bobbitt, man. She's from we from the similar neighborhood or what have you, and I've kind of grown up watching her. Very proud of her accomplishments, but fast forward to now. What I'm saying, you're older, you're wiser, you're still balling. Right now, you actually, I've seen some clips on social media of you giving back. And you're now, teaching kids how to conduct these moves, how to execute these moves, and just kind of how to play ball, pretty much, right? What's the biggest takeaway for you from having the chance to give back to the youth?
The biggest takeaway for me would be the ability to try to create more parenting in the household by using the resources outside the household. So, once a kid leaves their parents' instructions, they go out and they experience life. And the best, take back from that would be the parents are very comfortable knowing that they can send their kid to one of my camps or the Bone Collector Academy, or one of my staff can work with them through any personal problems. They can learn basketball, they can get life lessons, they can get health advice, they can get exercise, they can get whatever they would need. That is the biggest part for me because my son being 14 going on 15, and my little boy being 5, they're going to need more than just my information to help them in the world that we're living in. So if my organization can provide an opportunity for these kids to win scholarships and create different ways to cultivate better living conditions from what they've been used to, if they are going through bad things, then that is the only takeaway for me, because that's what I would assume as a child. You get distracted a lot, and I would need some guidance. So I would have that provision for people, and that takeaway is a life lesson too. So
of course, man, absolutely, that's well said. And do you see yourself slowing down at all? Like, again, you're older, you're wiser. I don't, you may be, I don't know if you're a step slower than you were back in 2001. But what'd you say?
No, I was going to say, to answer your question before you even finish it.
Yeah.
I'm just getting started. I'm going to leave it at that.
Just getting started, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first, man. Beware the bone collectors on the prowl, man. Don't try to guard up either. But I like to ask this last question, man. Just because you're a street ball legend in your own right, and if you were a spectator though, right? If you were on the other end of the you may have you may be a fan of another street baller, but who would you say is your favorite street ball player to watch? In terms of being entertained and just be throughout your tenure, who's been your favorite street ball player to enjoy and to watch?
Man, I can't have I don't have a favorite, but my dad was always my favorite player, street ball player, to be honest, because he could do everything. He was like what I work on now, having every move and being able to shoot from wherever. It's hard to guard people that can do that. That's how he was. So I would have to say him. When it comes to people that we all know, I'm just going to say every street ball player, all inclusive. There's too many to name. There's too many to try to balance. I'm just going to say everybody.
It was like a fraternity almost.
Yeah, when street ball hit the scene, I copied everybody. So everybody should have been copying each other, trying to get better. So I wanted to. I don't want to be funny about this, but I didn't think I could dunk until I seen like the real N1 guys go out and do crazy dunks. Like I was like, man, I got to try to dunk at least.
main event in those guys, right?
Yeah, short. So that's why I say all inclusive. Then we see ball handlers. You see everybody making up new moves. You want to do all that. I was blessed enough to be a part of that movement, and I'm going to continue that process, trying to get kids familiar with basketball. I don't like to call it street because it has so many negative contexts, but get more intuitive to basketball play without boundaries, and so they can understand that when you solidify anything, it's obviously going to become solid. That's what professionalism is, and just because you may be playing something to build you to that, don't think that journey is unimportant. No,
that's hey man, that's well said again, man. But our time is coming up. Again, I've been a fan of yours since forever, man. We're around the same age, but what I'm saying, I've always since the time I seen you play at the Kingdom that first time, always been a fan of yours, of what you've been able to accomplish, and even when you come into the city and we chop it up a little bit here and there, you always been cool, down to earth, and a stand-up dude. So I appreciate you. I commend you. Well respected in this arena. And like you just said, you're just getting started. So everybody, would you like to leave the people with any closing words, of encouragement or what have you?
I just want to say thank you. All Things Hoops, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate the questions you've given me, just so I can explain a little bit more the past and the way things were coming through that era. That era never gets talked about as much as I think. I mean, just my opinion, but thank you for that platform to do that. And then anything encouraging, always, kids, remember, you don't have to grow up and be somebody. You were born somebody. You just have to put your work in, and it'll also always show by the work ethic you put into what you love. So, with that being said, thank you guys for having me, and I can't wait to see you guys in person. I'll be in New York soon.
Hey, definitely, man. Let's chop it up, man. When you get to New York, man. I mean, hopefully this whole Corona thing dies down and people are able to get, move around a little bit more. But again, thank you, man, for joining us, and we'll be in touch, man. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. All right, have a blessed one.
All right, champ.
Peace.